So welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Dev Weekly. This is Monday, take 8 roughly, Monday 26th of November 2018. You're seeing this on Tuesday 27th if the recording and Camtasia processing will go fine. We are at the European SharePoint Conference in Denmark, in Copenhagen. It actually starts officially tomorrow. Today is a pre-conference, so Paolo, AC, John White, and a few other people are having 3 days. It's actually pretty crowded. So we dropped by on seeing some of the sessions and pre-day sessions, and there was a lot of people, so that's pretty great. Now, today we'll have it's about me and Waldek, but we have also a visitor. Who are you and why are you in the talk?
Hello, everybody. I don't know where we'll discover that together. I am Luca Bandinelli, and I am program manager of the SharePoint framework in Microsoft Corporation. And I've been around SharePoint for a while. My first gig was in MCS. I was writing the customer support service documentation for what was called Tahoe, which was supposed to be SharePoint Portal 7 2001.
That's quite a while ago, 17 years ago, right?
19.
19. Oh, that's before. Yeah, okay.
But that's
wow.
Yes.
Yeah, so that 2 decades.
That was SharePoint. Before releasing. Yes.
So that was when I was 2. Wow.
Sure.
Well, like you have some gray on your hair, so
yeah.
Now I feel old.
Thank you.
But is it fair to say, Luca, that you're one of the fathers of SharePoint framework, so to say?
I've been since release alpha as part of the SharePoint framework. Yes,
yeah.
I've been part
of the team and crew who created SharePoint framework. And Luca is one of my teammates you're actually physically located in Redmond, so I'm the only person who remotely calls in. If you guys remember to call me, right?
Yeah, or the other way around, but yes.
To be clear, so that's fine. That's fine. Cool. So Luca is from the SharePoint framework team. You probably might have seen a recording, for example, from Ignite 2018, where he and Pat had a session, and that went decently.
Let's say that, for lack of better words.
There's an internal joke for that one, which I can't actually explain. Now, quickly, let's go around the table what we've been doing on the last week related on SharePoint development in general, and then have some community submissions, and then come back on the table. So Waldek, let's start with you.
Last week, let me think. I've done a workshop about SPFX at a customer. There was a whole day workshop with their devs explaining what SPFX is, what can they do with that, what are the pros and cons. It was really cool because they are an SI in Germany and they do a lot of work on-prem. So it was interesting to get their take on SPFX, where things are, what they can do, and basically the constraints they have to deal with in their engagements. So it was really cool. And
what was the, sorry to interrupt you there, so because there's 2 people in the call who are highly interested in that feedback. So what was the feedback from the call or from the training?
So there are 2 things, right? On one hand, they struggle with the fact that the customers that they have are still on premises and they are still on 2013. So they cannot do that much with SPFX as much as they would like to. On the other hand, they build products that they use to use. It's important to them to be able to build the code once and be able to apply that as and with that, we talk briefly, it wouldn't be available to get based anywhere. It's kind of based on the same tool. So as such, they could extract the centerpiece of the code and then be able to run that or build that and have that run on top of SPFX, as well as on versions on-prem that don't have SPFX yet.
Yeah.
So that was the interesting thing. Another thing that was very interesting, like we talked a bit briefly about differences with regards to how you would model intranet in the classic world on premises with subwebs, comparing how things look like nowadays online. And it was also interesting to see that they have some work to catch up on all that change simply because their customers aren't there yet. But if they want to align with what's coming on the cloud, they're already thinking about, like, let's not create custom master pages, let's not brand thing, let's not do DOM injection, because that will lead to problems. And for people who work primarily online, that is already the reality.
Yeah.
Whether if the customers are on-prem, they still, like, once in a while you will have customers who seem like they know exactly what they need, and they will ask specifically for these things without actually knowing the consequence of doing that.
Yeah.
So that was also interesting discussion that we had to try to have them realize the consequence of that, and then try to teach that to customers.
Yeah. Like the classic example of having a custom master page. People just don't understand how catastrophically that will impact on the evergreen.
That is basically the dead end, right?
Yeah.
Because if you do that, you own everything.
Yep.
Like, you will not get any updates because that will block you. You will not get anything that is latest and greatest. Yes, basically hit that end.
Yep. And that's also the reason why there's no custom master pages in the modern experiences, because we need to make sure that we, as in Lucas and our team, is able to ship new features of SharePoint Framework, and the feature crews are able to ship new capabilities without impacting the customers, even though they have customizations in there, which are the extensions and all of that. So makes a lot of sense. What about you, Luca?
So what did we do? So basically, now that 1.7 has been shipped, we are working on the next release of the SharePoint Framework, which is, of course, a combination of ensuring that what has been shipped is working properly, and we are thanking everybody in the community that are providing great feedbacks through the GitHub channels that we are constantly reviewing, and we are making this fix as part of the new releases of the framework. So that's one of the things we're doing. We're also working extensively with other teams around Microsoft. You have seen that 1.7 has the first attempt of integration with Microsoft Teams, and by first attempt, I mean that we released that as part of a developer preview. So we are working to make that general available. We are working with other teams in Microsoft to make SharePoint Framework working there as well.
Yeah.
And we are also working on some of the functionalities of SPFX that have been predominantly working in SharePoint, just like isolated web part of our pages. And we are basically now defining the path for general availability of these features that will come between basically next calendar year sometime from now to there.
And one thing which you have on our slides for tomorrow for SPFX on the roadmap.
Spill the beans.
We're recording this on Monday when the video will go out. The session already happened.
Spoiler alert, but not really a spoiler.
Exactly. So there was nothing, and that was actually, I think we've been publicly saying this, that we've been working on this, is the CSP. Content Security Policy. And I think we publicly say that we're working on this one in SPC North America this year.
I think you are correct. And there is already some areas of the product where we enforce the content security policies.
Yeah.
30-second conversation, what content security policy is basically a way that the model browsers use in order to enforce security policies in things like JavaScript injection and custom JavaScript, or how do I ensure that what I'm downloading is coming from trusted quote sources.
Yeah.
So we use that some places, listed libraries, for example. If you don't have any customization, the modern listed library experience already uses content security policies. We are doing work in order to ensure that as long as you have third-party SharePoint Framework component, web parts, or extensions, we are able to enforce that whatever is downloading from something that was declared by the developer is basically strictly enforced. So the scenario would be something like, I am providing information and I'm saying that those are the locations from where I am downloading the content, because I don't want to put the asset as part of my package, and the customer is okay with that. But then the system needs to enforce that the location that have been declared are the only location that we are using, that the component, the solution are using in order to load the resources from. And that's some of the code.
And oversimplifying, let's say the threat or security threat here is that we want to make sure that even though you would accidentally reference a unknown NPM package, which then dynamically refers to JavaScript files from a unknown location,
correct,
you would unable to do that because the content security policies are blocking that to happen in a project.
And if you are a developer and you're using fantastic third-party components from NPM, but you never know what is going to be over there, and then you want to be safe for your customers and for yourself.
That's Waldek's #1 preferred discussion point, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also an interesting thing, right? Because many times people do not realize, like they will have, for example, the customers to whom I spoke who are on premises, right? They will invest in things like RSA token, VPN access, like all the thing, but then they will put a script on a page that basically would go through all of that, circumvents all the measures that they put in place, and that script can then run on behalf of a user who is already on a page and can call out because users have access to the internet.
Yeah.
So that's a thing that people are very much unaware of, and which is a big risk.
Yeah.
Right.
That is correct. To be fair, we need to be clear also on the people who are watching this video. It's like, okay, that means that I will not go to the SharePoint framework. No.
It's not a SharePoint framework related thing.
It's not a SharePoint related thing. The #1 concern and #1 security threat that people are having in the SharePoint Online is the classic script editor web or the classic script embedding capabilities. In modern, you can't do that. That is by design blocked, and it's much more secure. Now, whenever you're getting a customization installed, you still need to be aware what does that customization actually contain, so you will not cause a additional security thing. So just to be clear on that. Yeah. So rather SharePoint framework than anything else.
Oh, and we are also investing on that, right? If you think about the isolated web part, it's one of the features that we just released in developer preview 1.7, which gives you the ability to scope the web API permissions to just that component, so that even if you still have classic sites and pages where scripted web part is present, the script in that scripted web part will not be able to make a call to that web API with that specific scope.
Yeah, and it is a big improvement, right? Because it allows you to securely expose your APIs only to specific purpose components and not to everything across the whole tenant.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Awesome discussion. Now, let's actually jump on a few community submissions, and then let's get back on the discussion and close up, so we won't be chatting again
for 2 hours.
2 hours. We could easily do that. That's not a problem. Both me and Luca are ex-consultants, so we can do this as...
We got paid for that, so that's the reason why.
That is actually true. So let me actually plug that one. And let's see. I can't hide
it's
that
coming through.
And it's coming through. Cool. I can minimize that. Cool. So let me avoid that.
It's working.
Cool. So a few community submissions. Well, it's a slightly different setup than previous weeks because we're slightly in a different recording.
We are on the road.
On the road. So this isn't really optimal. But anyway, so SharePoint Rider had a awesome submission related.
Oh, SharePoint Rider on the road. Now I understand.
That's good, huh?
So Joseph from Hubfly, unless I'm mistaken, I think Joseph is actually working for Hubfly, is around Microsoft Teams custom chat video recording app using SharePoint Framework. And this is really cool. So basically writing a SharePoint Framework web part, which is actually using the camera recording capabilities for your within your laptop. So JavaScript, there are JavaScript libraries which are then accessing your camera, and you're able to then feed the recording through Microsoft Teams tab. So it's kind of an interesting combination of Teams tab and a SharePoint framework, and then a camera recording through web page.
So in other words, you'll be able to use that to record something of yourself without having to have a call with anybody.
Correct. That's actually super valuable. That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
So worth mentioning that they currently also use the REST APIs to upload the video on OneDrive. Which is
Yep, that is true. This is really a really cool setup. So a really nice setup, and apparently there's the source code available. You can clone the repo, run an npm install, and then have a look on how things are actually working. So really, really cool stuff.
Cool.
Now, the second item which we had here is from Sarah. So let me approve the agree statement. Information architecture in a flat SharePoint world.
Yeah.
And this is actually a really interesting one because this comes down on the fact that how we used to be more deep site collections and a subsites and everything else, but now we, as a Microsoft, we prefer people doing hub sites and then individual one site per site collection architectures. And there's multiple reasons actually for that recommendation. There are performance reasons, there are other reasons as well. What's actually interesting around the classic, let's say, deep hierarchical site collections is the fact that what happens if you change an organization team changes its name, or division changes its name, or it merges with somebody else. Reorganizing that site collection hierarchy is just insanely difficult.
We tried to do that back in 2003. Remember, we had that thing called SPAria.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. That
was
true.
A nice attempt.
That was a content management server. Yes, that is true. That's true. And then we had the content and structure managing capabilities in SharePoint, but the problem with that one is that, using Prime API. And also the problem with that one was the fact that when you do a large modification, it was an insanely performance intensive. So,
which, to be clear, was designed for an on-prem world, it was designed for a limited amount of machines, no more than 18. That was part of the best practices. So it was a great feature for that world, for that scenario. It doesn't work very much in a world where you have 100 of machines part of your farm.
Exactly. That's the impact of that kind of a change in the site collection hierarchy would then impact other tenants in the same infrastructure. And sure, it is fair comment somebody to say, well, you're Microsoft, you should be fixing that.
We are.
Well, we took the feature away, so that's one way of fixing it.
By providing same capabilities in a modern
replacements world. Which are more future-proven, performance optimized, and all of that. So
designed for a cloud world.
Designed for a cloud world. Yes, indeed. Now, the third one here is from Timo Perttila. So this is actually a Finnish article. I already told Timo, he's a Finn, that, hey, this is insanely cool stuff. I use Google Translator to translate that in English, but from Finnish to English, that translation isn't that optimal, to be fair. Finland is Finnish is pretty difficult language. Now, but he's doing a live demo on this one this week on Thursdays.
Cool.
SIG call. So this is basically a combination.
In English, right?
In English.
That is good. That's good to know.
Just checking.
Using Microsoft Graph for creating teams and creating templates, so selecting what is the template and
so it's using the new Teams APIs.
APIs, SharePoint list to save your subscriptions and requests, so you can do approvals, so you create those. And then we use the actual Teams, we use the Graph APIs to get things moving. We create a Power Apps Teams order form. Then we obviously use Azure AD application registration. Well, in this case, because we have an Azure function actually behind of, it's actually Flow, which is...
so then Flow will probably do all of Flow.
Yeah.
To get token, to create the team.
Yes. And then we create a teams automatically using the Flow whenever the request is getting approved, accepting an order. So if there's a different Flow options, cloning from creating a team, cloning from an existing template, and adding owners and all of that
stuff. It's a pretty complete solution, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's actually an awesome example. It's basically a blog post explaining the model, and sure, it could be much more detailed. So Timo is showing this live this week on Thursday's call. But it's a really awesome demo on showing the power of the Microsoft 365 or Office 365 platform, because it has Microsoft Teams, Power Apps, Flow, Microsoft Graph, APIs, Azure AD, SharePoint, and everything in the context of a real solution.
Very cool.
Super cool stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
Now, and then the final one here was a comment from Chirag. So SharePoint, can't we set page layout as single page web part from a SPFX web part? So can we change the page layout of a single page to be a single-page web part from an SPFX web part? And the answer is yes.
Yes, you can.
And this one is really referring to the capability, which is, single part pages, which were released to preview as part of 1.7. And the point being on the fact that you can have a page which the end users or content editors cannot edit. So you as an administrator, you can actually flip the page layout to be something else, and then the content editors can modify it.
And the scenario here is basically you as an ISV and SI wants to build an application that is ready to go. You install, you deploy that, you install as part of the add an app flow, and the page is there already. You don't need to rely on an authoring experience to build the application, but the application is there, and there is no risks to change the behavior of the application by configuring or remove parts or changing the behavior of the part, because basically that's the way you as a solution integrator, system integrator designed the application.
Yeah. So technically how this is in the previous days, how you can actually make this happen is that you create a new page, you modify, put a web part on it, one single web part. It doesn't support multiple web parts yet.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the things that we are working on as part of the how make this feature general, part of general availability.
And then you configure your web part to be based on the optimal, whatever the settings are. You as a application solution or solution designer make those decisions, and then you flip the page layout to be a single web part page. And in our documentation, we show 3 ways of doing that changing of the page layout. So you can either use JavaScript in the browser console, change that using PnP PowerShell, or then changing that using Office 365 CLI. There was already a comment in this, actually loading the feedback, but I think it's comment in this one. It would be nice to have a screenshot of the outcome. Yeah. But the outcome always depends on what kind of web part did you place on the page. Correct. So it's debatable how it will look.
Yeah, but I mean, we could do it in a way that we show the first experience when you add a web part to the page, and then we run the script, and then we show second experience, basically to compare before and after.
Sure. That is a fair point.
One of the reasons why we built that is also to have a more full page experience for team staff that want to show up in SharePoint.
Right.
So that's another way to use basically the app page infrastructure to surface, provide a trusted solution in SharePoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the canvas is different. The team's canvas, a team staff canvas is different than a page, or just like the canvas.
The rendering style of that one is different. Yeah. And right now, this is in their preview, right? So not to be used in production, but you can already play around with that and test it out. And we will have more details on this one.
And just to give you more power of the commitment, we are working very, very hard to be sure that we are going to be able to be GA as soon as possible.
Yeah. Cool. So we're getting publicly available worldwide as soon as possible. 1.8, maybe 1.9, who knows? What is the timing of 1.8? Well, we haven't provided anything. It depends. Well, it's definitely not going to happen by Christmas, by end of this year. I think that's
by the end of next year.
By the end of next year. So we're not planning to release a new version by end of this year, calendar year, unless there's a critical bug which we need to fix. That's always the potential thing. And that comes to really on the logistics. It's the same as do not ship on 5 p.m. on Friday. You should not ship 5 p.m. on Friday. But if don't do that. Walk away. Yeah. But don't do that.
Yes.
Cool. That's it for now on that one. So let me actually flip back on the slides and stop sharing so we get a full screen picture just to close up the webcast as well. Webcast. This is not a webcast. This is in SharePoint Dev Weekly.
Yes, it is. In a way, it is a webcast.
It is.
In a kind.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Should we do group hug?
Yes.
Let's do a group hug.
Okay. Yeah, we are all in the same room. Of course we are.
Of course we are. That was fun. And
thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Good to have you here. And looking forward on the following days.
Absolutely.
Great week.
And we will get you, Luca, on these calls in the future as well.
Please,
we have more stuff to talk about.
And from a different location, and I will be written probably.
And then we won't be able to hug.
Not physically, but literally, of course.
Yeah, that always works.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.